Welcome. Season 4, episode 10 of the Breaking Chains podcast. Now, today is our season finale.
Oh, snap.
And we're going to end it with discernment. What is discernment?
What is discernment?
So discernment to me...
No, I like literally, I don't know why I just blanked.
Yeah, but forget everybody else's definition. What is your definition of discernment?
So discernment is like, it's to use judgment wisely, like to really wisely, right? So wisely is wisdom.
Okay.
Right? So wisdom comes from experience. It comes from a deep knowingness.
Okay.
And it comes from, so a deep knowingness would be intuition. And it comes from sorting out, right? Kind of like de-weeding. So you have to like be able to see it all in order to navigate. Is that making sense? I'm like walking through a path in my head right now.
Sometimes when I think of discernment, and I feel like, yes, you can use discernment in any situation, right? Like using your intuition. I think there are some intuitive abilities that allow you to better be pulled to a choice.
Yeah, but I don't think using discernment is intuitive. It's not like the same word.
I didn't say it was.
Okay.
I said when you're connecting more with your intuition, you have the better ability for discernment.
Yes. Yeah.
So part of that is like... For me, using discernment is like when I do meditation and a thought comes through my mind, right? Not every thought that we believe is our thoughts. I have to use discernment to decide, what do I want to do with that thought? Is that a reflection, or is that just some wild thought in my head right now?
I love that. Now, define discernment without the word discernment. So you just explained what you do for discernment. So yes. I'm trying to like explain what it even is without using it, right? Like, so if I'm going to make a judgment, right? So we want to walk this path of life and be like non-judgmental, be an open vessel, letting things flow and allowing things to be. Everything's perfect, right? That's like the highest enlightenment way to be. Everything just is. The reality is we're human and we're here for the human experience, and we're here to navigate and experience different things. And in order to experience righteousness, which is not self-righteous or I am the righteous one, but if you want to experience righteousness in the way of, okay, this is clearly right, and this is clearly wrong, if we're speaking of the human experience. And you can go deeper and things can get muddy, and I think that's where the danger lies. When we're speaking of, yes, everything just is, and we could love everybody and kumbaya and let everybody just be them, but where are lines drawn, right? So like if we're looking at like the LGBTQXI community, right? And no judgment in it. But if we're now looking at like all the things that are happening with this, I'll call it an agenda, because we've always been down with the LGBT, right? Like, be who you are. And now we're seeing things where it's crossing over to children, and children are getting affected, right? And it's like, I bring this up because this is like a big discernment thing, and everybody has their own discernment around it. But if things are affecting children and agendas are affecting children, I think it's safe to say now there's like a clear right and wrong.
But that doesn't require...
It requires discernment within yourself to know, and outside, because you can be pulled into certain spaces and like, oh yeah, love is love. Let everything just be and let people flow and everybody deserves love and no judgments. And that's where danger lies without discernment.
So just almost like taking things at the surface level.
What do you mean by that?
Like discernment is when you're no longer going to take things at the surface level. Like, oh, this is what's going on by the Democrats. It must be okay. Instead, you're like, why would they be doing this? And so I'm starting to use my discernment and peeling back the onion of what could actually be behind this. And this can be used in social agendas. It could be used in relationships that you have with others. It could be used in business transactions.
Right.
It could be used in all sorts of ways. I think it's more about, I think discernment is just required when it's almost like more, there's more than to meets the eye, right? It's like there's more, something deeper to it. And so you have to look and focus and take more stimulus into account.
It's judging. It's judging in a way that you know right from wrong. And in the Tao Te Ching, right? Like when you go into like all the spirituality stuff, it's like there's no right and wrong. It all just is. And now I think bringing discernment into it helps you know your path and where you feel like, where you know you're supposed to go. Using that discernment to question whether something is on or off.
So is that intuition?
I think it's part intuition.
Hey, can you look up the definition?
It's part intuition. It is a judgment. And I think that like you could look at somebody right away. You could feel somebody, right? You could feel somebody and be like, yeah, you
Cough.
like right when you meet somebody, you could be like, something's off about this person. Can't put my finger on it. Nice person. Now that's not really discernment. Like you're not using discernment. You're not even judging. That's like an intuitive feeling, right? That's an intuitive feeling. Now, if you get to know somebody and you see them do some snaky stuff, definition.
What's the
Tyler?
definition, Tyler?
Discernment is the ability to understand something immediately without need for conscious reasoning.
There
That's
you go.
intuition.
Yes, that's like gut, boom,
So
I feel it.
what's discernment?
What's discernment? So intuition is when you feel it like in your, like you just know. That's like a deep knowing. Discernment is, I feel like, that along with information given to you, whether by sight, by feeling.
What do you
by
got?
hearing.
All I have on the dictionary is the ability to judge well.
The ability to judge well. That was the definition. Why couldn't I not memorize that? So the ability to judge well, discernment. So now when you meet a person, you might have gotten that gut feeling, but because we don't judge and we're like, okay, everyone deserves a chance. But this person keeps doing some shady stuff. This is where your discernment comes in. The ability to see something from the information given in that deeper knowing alongside of that in making a decision. I think that's where discernment is used. Whether that decision is to go forward with something, to make it a belief or a thought in your head, or to continue a relationship, to stop a relationship. I think that's the discernment. I think the discernment comes along with a decision.
Okay. Nice and easy definition. So
The ability to judge well.
the ability to judge well using your intuitive faculty.
Well, I think that's like in there. I think it's just, that's why it's so complex. I think that's why we wouldn't even talk about discernment, because like the Bible, like when people talk about reading the Bible is so complex. I was just reading Revelations 2 this morning. I'm like, yo, this book is crazy because nobody can be like, this is what it means, boom. You have to decipher that bad boy. It's like in code. And so you would, if you heard somebody say, I think this is what it means, and then you heard somebody else say, I think this is what it means, you would then have to use discernment to say, I hear you, this feels right. But that's on you. What's true?
What's to decipher?
What?
To decipher.
What?
What does that mean? To decipher.
What is deciphering? Now we're just going into
I know. I just want to know.
definitions
I just want to know if it's somewhat connected to discernment.
Decipher, discernment. Decipher has a different pre.
Because again, you're taking information to make your. It's almost like
Prefix.
You're using.
That's the word.
You're taking information to make a decision.
But decipher means to take it out of code. So when you're deciphering something, you're bringing the meaning to surface.
Well, like you're taking for instance, you're taking somebody's actions and you're deciphering their actions, the way that they speak, their body language.
No.
And then
That's just like what's there. This is getting convoluted, this conversation. So deciphering means something is in code. When somebody does something, that's blatant. Unless
people's
it's like,
actions are often in code. So what do you mean?
No, I think most people's actions are blatant. Like they're showing you what they're doing in front of your face. People then can like do like sneaky things, but that doesn't mean to be deciphered. Deciphering is in words. Like, can you give me the definition of deciphering? From what I understand, decipher is
Convert into normal language, succeed in understanding, interpreting, or identifying.
interpreting. I don't know why that word wouldn't come to me, but it's interpretation.
Gotcha.
So it's like, I basically said that, right?
Okay.
Can you read that first sentence again?
Succeed in understanding, interpreting, or identifying something.
No, the first one.
The first one was convert into a normal language.
Convert into a normal language. So if we're looking at the scripture, it's like it could mean anything.
Yeah.
And so you use discernment as to or you make your own. Maybe your discernment tells you this is what it means to me.
Yeah.
Through your deciphering, and I'm going to choose, I deciphered it, and this is my meaning. Through my discernment, I feel like God spoke to me, and this is what it means. But like that's discernment. You could use any words and twist people's words. You could twist experiences to what suits you, right? But that's like discernment.
Gotcha. So how do you strengthen? Or well, I guess how do you determine what is real or authentic?
In what sense?
With regards to discernment. How do you discern?
How do you?
I feel like I use my intuitive abilities to discern. I look at people's actions. Mm-hmm. I look at their body language.
What if we're talking about truth? How do you use discernment when it comes to truth? Like, let's say politics. You know, we were just talking about how we don't watch the news. When somebody gives us news, when people talk about Palestine and Israel, sorry, I don't know. I'm so sorry. I was like, my mind keeps going blank. When people talk about Israel and Palestine, how do you use discernment to know what's really going on? There are like two crazy sides where it's like, yo, they just out there killing innocent people regardless. Like, there's no side I'm taking.
Yeah.
Like, I think people should just stop killing each other.
I mean, so from my perspective,
I might get flack for that.
Yeah, from my perspective, part of my discernment strategy is to be detached from either side. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, you know, yes to this or no to that, I'm looking at why yes, why no, and not needing for me to hold on to either one, being willing to switch to yes to no to see what are the pros and cons of each decision. When it comes to like Republican, Democrat, it's very similar situation. Like if you're detached from the outcome or the need to be right, a lot of times all of the truth is right there in front.
That they're both full of shit.
It's when we get blinded by needing to be part of the group or needing to be right that we miss out on the gaps.
Right. Well, the fact that we're sold a lie with government, for one. And I think that's a lot of when you start really using your discernment as to what's going on. Like if you start asking yourself, okay, I want the truth. Let me like really look at, because in order to use discernment, you have to take in the information. You can't have an opinion. You can't judge something without getting all the facts of both sides. So when you're having an argument and you're taking a stance on what you believe truth is, but you're not listening to the other side, there's no possible way you're discerning it. Because you have to have the information. I think that's like an important word right now with it all. So I think when you look at like, okay, Republican, Democrat, Israel, Palestine, if you go to both sides and listen to all that's happening, you realize, so I can't think when Kate is crying. He's screaming out there. You realize everybody really wants one thing. Two things. To be right and to be loved. Like, at the end of the day, I don't think
people want to be right. I just think
we have this innate desire to be right.
That's just because they identify. That's their safe box. That's their safe box that they were taught. So if they lost that identification with Republican or Democrat or Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or Catholic or, male, female, or if they lost that identification, they would lose themselves. So this is why they hold on to it. I actually don't think they want to hold on to it because holding on to it only creates more pain and suffering.
Well, that's why this conversation is so interesting. And it's funny you went there like lose all detachment and detach from everything and nothing's real. We can go there. And I think it's important to like become detached. But there is this human element that calls for discernment and judgment so that we can go through this experience in a righteous manner where we're not really truly cause harm possible.
Why do you seem to correlate detachment with not caring? They're not the same thing at all. Detachment is being able to caring. Well, you made it sound as if like this some huge thing.
I guess because when I think
to detach, but it's not that. It's actually giving you the most possible freedom to discern correctly compared to allowing your emotions to make the decisions for you.
What do you think emotions do though for you? What are emotions here for?
I think our emotions have the ability to be a guidance system to where we're going. I also think emotions are also triggered conditioning that get you to react. So often you need to discern between what is true in my heart and soul and what is my ego saying to me? And that's why, for me, being detached does not mean not caring, not loving, not supporting, not wanting to always do the right thing. It's saying, wow, by being detached, I can I'm open to gathering all the information possible to see where this goes.
Okay. I mean, when you brought up like being detached from, yes, I could say, yeah, and I agree with you. There's a lot of detachment in terms of I'm not so attached to this identity. I'm not so attached to this identity. I also think it is important to remember who you are in this form to get through this life with joy and lightheartedly.
But what?
Right?
But why?
So,
why
so
does
like,
that?
Okay, I'm not attached to being a woman. Like, oh, I need it. But I am, because I am a woman, and I know what that embodies, and I know what I'm here to do as a woman, and what that means. So if a male tries to say he's a woman, to me, I'm so detached from needing to be a woman because I am a woman. It's the truth. I don't need to be it. I can simply say you're not a woman.
Of course, of course.
And I know this gets deep, and this can be
But
offensive.
those people are actually not detached; they're attached.
Yes.
So that's why the word detached doesn't even line up with that example, because they are attached. They need to be attached to something to identify with.
Yeah.
That's a way bigger, like, her, him, however it goes.
Yeah.
There, like, that's a whole difference. They are so attached to need to identify with something, while a detached state, it's not. You don't have to go out of your way to prove that I'm this or that. Yes, you are female. I'm male. Super simple.
So when it comes to, since we're on this topic, and I guess it's coming up a lot for me right now, because I'm seeing it so much, like this trend of flipping roles. Like a lot of it's a big trans movement right now, and people are very attached to saying they are something else other than what they were born as, right?
Okay.
And now it's like affecting children, where there's books in the library and like talking about your body, and you don't have to be what you were born as. You can just be whatever you want, and nobody can tell you who you are. And there's this like, okay, you could detach from it and say, yeah, there are people that are born a certain way, and who are we to judge? Like, I don't care, you do you. But when it's being kind of taught, how do we use discernment for, okay, you're supposed to teach children to be free and be who they want. Where does the discernment begin to come into play as to where the line is for you? Like, where the line is in teaching children about sexuality, their gender, what gender is.
Where does the line? First of all, I wouldn't put my kids in harm's way.
But
I would use proper discernment to know that maybe if it's being taught in public schools, that I wouldn't have my kid go to public school, right? So I would look at where there's influence. Now, at the end of the day,
everything.
we still should give our kids the spaciousness to live their life.
Right.
Whatever that
That's what
may
I'm saying.
be.
Like, there's no, like, you need to be this way, but how do you know something's not taught?
I also think it's important for our kids to be open. And what I mean by open is, like, I think some of the biggest pull from this agenda, if you will, or whatever it may be, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm just
Is
curious.
that it's trying to give somebody some closure. Like, I identify as this, and I'm getting attention from it, and I'm getting this from it, and I feel loved now. I feel approved of. Here's my group. Here's my new community that loves me for whatever I am. Maybe they didn't feel that love in the other version of them. And now they're like, hey, regardless of whatever it is, I feel love in this version.
I'm a part of something.
I'm a part of something. Yeah. We're changing the world. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is. And it's there. And I can be detached from it, and I can observe it, and I can witness it, and I can choose to make the decisions I need to make for our children to, I don't want to say protect them from it, but to know that there's not other people influencing our children so that our children can decide, their path, right?
Yeah. What I see it as is really unconditional love, right? And we could say that, oh, you love someone unconditional for who they choose to be and what they are. And really, if you teach your children to love themselves so much, they can use discernment as to know, this is, if I'm trying to change who I am, if I truly love myself, am I loving myself by trying to change who I am? I don't know. Like it gets very, very vast when it comes to using discernment. There are so many things I think that we can say about so many topics. Like I brought up politics, we brought up that, even race, right? Like, where do you use discernment in terms of how far an agenda goes with race, right? Like, all right, there was slavery. That was painful. That hurt a lot of people. Might have set us back a little. But we also know with struggle and with, what's that word? When you go through hardships.
Resiliency?
You build resiliency, right? And you build character. You build strength. So I'm choosing my words very carefully here. But if nothing, it made us strong people. All of us. Because white people get to see the pain and the suffering that black people went through, and black people get to see the pain and suffering that their people went through, and be like, oh, snap, we won people. If we can accept that. But the more we use an experience of what happened in the past as to why we are where we're at now, you have to start using discernment of, okay, is this story, because the past is all a story, future is all a story, the only thing that matters is now, is this story helpful to me to get to where I'm going? I have to use discernment now if the BLM movement is helpful to me, or is it actually harmful to me? But that's like to each individual. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
I think so, for the most part.
Yeah.
I think, like, I don't know, to me, like, discernment starts to become more natural if you're just skeptical of things. And what I mean by skeptical is, that's why I like the word detached a little bit more than skeptical, because detached is like, okay, I'm back here, I'm looking in at this and taking all the information. But I think skeptical can be good too. Like, right, you get a phone call from somebody who says, hey, I'm PSE&G. Hey, we got your, we got a $250 refund for you. I just need your social security number and your routing number and your account number, and it'll be in there in 10 minutes. Like, be a little fucking skeptical.
Well, that's the fifth agreement.
What?
Listen, but be skeptical.
I'd be like, really? $250? Why do you need all that information? Can you just send me a check? Like, is there anything? Can I come pick it up? Where are you located? Like,
listen,
just be
but
skeptical. Like, so going back to real quickly, just for an example, like detachment is like, I'm like, wow, my emotions are like, yo, $250. All I gotta do is give them all of my information. So my discernment's like, as I'm detached, I'm like, yeah, but what if they take all my information and they don't give me $250? So my emotions are like $250, but my core is like, you're giving away all of your personal information.
Yeah. That's a good example with discernment. And I think I went like so far out here with all the things that are happening in the world, because I think, like you said, we could be so attached to a movement. We could be so attached to supporting people. I love my trans people. I love my gay people. I love these people. I love them all. When do we start to use discernment as, this don't feel right. Let me sort through the information of what's going on to figure out if I'll send my kids to school to learn this curriculum.
Yeah.
Let me sort through this information that's going on to see, Do I even spend my time voting this year? Let me sort through this information to see, do I hold my belief system in this place? I think that's discernment. And I think it's a really good way for the grand finale today, because like you could listen to everything we say and you don't have to agree. Or you could agree. Or there could be some that you agree with and you don't agree with. That's using your own discernment as to whether you want to hold something that we're saying as true or not. Yeah. Right? Like, and it's just an experience on this end.
Yeah, I think a good way to, I love your example. It's almost like, to all the viewers out there, you could be listening to us and not willing to hear our perspective because you're so desperately trying to protect your beliefs. I think the ultimate test is to be open to all perspectives so that you can ring true once again that your truth is your truth. And to me, that's the most empowering thing, to be like, yes, share your perspective with me. Give me some more wisdom and knowledge so I can either literally go away from my current beliefs and fully accept yours, or even stand firmer in my beliefs because
I'm convicted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's funny. Like I say I'm open. Like I'm really like, I am willing to like hear you out. Cause I actually would love you to be so right that it's like, oh damn, no, that's the truth. We want to be told the truth. Like really, but it's scary. Can we handle the truth? And I think that's why like the awakening or conscious rising happens incrementally. Like you have to like step into it. Yeah. It's like levels, because if you're blasted into all of this, what's going on, you won't know where to go next. And sometimes it feels like that in life, period. Like, where do I even go from here? But like, you realize like it's just the next step, baby. Like you just keep going. You keep living for life, to enjoy it, not to have some agenda.
Of course.
Yeah.
You're here to experience.
Just here to experience.
And part of that experience is change,
yeah,
and transformation and evolution.
Yeah.
And so you have to embrace all of that. That's what I kind of mean by just being open.
Yeah. No, I mean, I kind of feel like it's closing, or this conversation is closing, but like that openness too, how open you are, use discernment there too.
Of course.
Right? Because it's like, oh, I'm so open and free and wild. And like I said, that path of like righteous behavior, you want to ask yourself, would you want your children to see what you're doing? Would you want your children to behave the way you're behaving? Would you want your children to experience what you're experiencing? And that could be like, yeah, I want my children to experience everything. Or it's like, no, I actually don't want them harmed in this way. I don't want them to feel this pain, and they're going to feel what they need to feel in this journey regardless. But like the babies of the new earth don't need to experience the trauma that has been experienced before. Does that make sense? Did I go way too far out there?
I don't know. You said open, and then you I don't know.
Yeah, because like, okay, so
to me, open means like, yeah, I don't know.
Yes, I'm open to making a decision.
I just feel like I'm open. Like we don't.
The decision has to be no.
No, but the problem is we don't know. We don't know right now from 2 minutes from now. We don't know 2 minutes from now to an hour from now. Like we don't know.
I think there's
like if I was driving outside right now, and I thought I loved a yellow car, and then I saw, I don't know, the Corvette in red. I'm like, oh wow. Imagine if I was just holding on to yellow. Yellow, 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 yellow. I'm like, there's a red car. It's pretty cool. When I say by open, it's like, I think that is one of the biggest issues right now with people in general, because it was with myself.
I see what you're saying.
Is that there's like this tightness. There's this like, I got it all together. I can't step over the line. I can't experience this. I better not do this. I've always liked red. I've always liked yellow. I've always liked black.
So out of colors, let's take it to like a real thing. Like in terms of, I don't know, this is pretty hard for me to like put into words. I guess like trying meth. Right? Like I'm open to anything. I'm down to party. I'm open.
I mean, you're just going like way out in left field. There's a lot of decisions before meth.
There's a lot of people that do meth.
But I'm saying there's like, you know what? Let me have a cigarette.
No,
you know what? Let me smoke some weed.
Let me finish. No, let me finish. So
meth.
Trying meth. Okay, we've done all the drugs. Like I guess meth is next. Not true. We've not done all the drugs.
It's extreme.
No, it's not extreme because people do meth. This is where
But somebody,
let me get to my point. All right. Right. So using discernment, that's why I was like, this is hard. But I was like, okay, there's meth. So using discernment, like, okay, I've done some drugs. I've done some coke. I have not done coke. But like I've done coke. I can handle myself. I'm going to try meth. Using your discernment, even if you do drugs, whatever that means, using some discernment, like, I never met a person that did meth and was okay. Let me start thinking about this and where this can lead me, right? And then I could be so open and be like, well, I might enjoy this experience and I might feel something I've never felt before. And I might actually really enjoy it. And oh man, F it, YOLO, let me do this as meth. Like, that's how you become an addict of anything. You could say that's extreme, but you could say that's extreme, but it's just like alcohol.
No, that's
like,
not being open. That's not being open. That's trying to fill a void in yourself. That doesn't mean...
That's where discernment comes in.
But I'm saying that's not being open.
That is being open. You whether it's meth, whether it's alcohol, whether it's an orgy, whether it's... Like, you can be open and like...
So what's the opposite of open for you then?
Closed.
Okay.
So closed-minded.
Okay.
So there's open-minded and being like, okay, but being open-minded requires a lot of discernment. So a lot of times when you judge somebody as being closed-minded, maybe they need that closed-mindedness for where they're at. Right? Because if they were to be open, they wouldn't know where to go. So that's what I'm saying. It's in increments. Like you open a little, maybe retract a bit. Open, okay. Open. And then you're able to expand here where you can maybe choose different drugs that you think are okay. These are the good ones. Maybe a little mushrooms, maybe a little DMT, maybe some ayahuasca. But I'm going to say no to meth. That's discernment. But if you don't know, if you have no knowledge of all the drugs and what they do and where they take you, you might be like, all drugs are bad. No drugs at all, right? But the open mind along with information, mushrooms can help heal depression, anxiety, past traumas. Maybe it's a possibility. Let me read more up on this. It's not I thought it was a drug. I thought it was like meth. That is using discernment, getting all your information together in whatever situation you're in, and then judging wisely.
Gotcha.
Did that make more sense? Did that come together a little better?
Sure.
No?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like some of the more basic words that I've used today, such as detachment, and being open were like, as if you feel that those words mean non-feeling on detachment side and reckless on the open side because of your examples that you gave them.
No, it's...
And to me, that doesn't align with my definition or my truth of what those words, detachment. To me, detachment is like I'm looking at the whole story I'm looking at the whole story from right here. I'm not in the frame. I'm outside the frame looking in. Open to me is, it takes so much energy to be closed-minded. The amount of energy being closed-minded is sometimes not forgiving people. It's holding on to the pains and traumas that you've gone through and never being able to find a reason, not letting go of bad memories or whatever else. To me, being closed-minded, and hey, it's a process. You're right. Everybody's in their own space. And at the right time, they'll be willing to do that. But it's almost like you're dying from within by being closed-minded. By being open is like being like the sky, right? The clouds are coming through. This is what I feel. Here it comes. I felt it. Here it goes. That's a lot easier to maintain, to me, in this aspect of my life, than it is to try to close down and hold on to everything. Instead of just being a witness to what is, and then using your discernment to make those decisions.
So I think we're having the same conversation, but different. So you're in a place where you're like, I'm open because I know how to use my discernment. This is how you do it. I'm open and I'm so detached. And I'm speaking to how to get there. You're speaking about where you're at. And I'm speaking, okay, we can get to a place where I'm busted wide open. Come at me. Anything goes. But I'm so strongly convicted in my knowingness and what I know is truth right now that I can automatically use discernment wherever I go. But if you're just now beginning a journey of starting to questioning your belief system, starting to question your political beliefs, your relationship limitations, your mindset limitations, going from this to this.
But it's impossible. Your emotional system won't even allow you to go from this to that. It's impossible. Growth is in steps.
Yeah.
So you have to start with the belief that is a true belief. Maybe I do need to be more open. If I feel that I need to be more open in order to take in more of life has to offer to me, I'm naturally going to move in that direction of being more open. Yeah. But if I hold on to like everything else, how do you even become open?
Yeah. I think I'm looking at it from like as you open up, you must be putting in. Right? There is that integration aspect, I guess I'm talking about. Like the integrating of the information you get, the knowledge you get, the understanding that you get, the wisdom that you get. If you're being shown something and told something and you understand something, then you implement it as opposed to just...
As opposed to what?
Just being detached and open. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know either. But let's reflect on the season.
I'm really saying it like, because it's I don't know. I don't feel like this is finished. I feel like it's finished, but it's not finished, this conversation. Because the discernment part is, okay, like let's look at the spiritual world, right? Like this, and it's so wide.
No. Let's, if you want to talk about Don't bring up the spiritual world. Bring up the examples. You said that I'm coming from a perspective of things I've already learned and that I utilize on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So let's talk to anybody who's in that process.
Yeah. So I think the word like openness and detachment, they're good. They are good when you understand them.
What does detachment mean to you? I think that's the best thing. What is your definition of detachment? Because I've given you my definition of detachment. What is yours?
The same. When you're looking from an outside perspective and you can really look at it without clinging on to whatever you think you know.
So then what in that?
And I think it's more about the openness where it's like, okay, because I feel like I've been in the realm of like, okay, I'm open and learning real quick by being so open that it leaves room for things that don't belong. Things that don't belong.
When can you ever remove things that don't belong in your life? Typically, you learn things that don't belong by them being there, and then you're like, damn, I don't want that shit no more. Right? Like, we can't perfectly live.
But that's what I'm saying. So when you're so open and you're on this ride of learning and exploring and grasping on to, okay, I can hold on to this. I feel safe here. I feel safe with this knowingness now and moving forward in my healing journey or my spiritual journey. I feel like there are a lot of false gods, so to speak, where there can be a lot of lies can creep in and it can be dangerous to like your sanity because there's so much like conjuring of entities and instead of like really just seeking truth, filling yourself with truth. And that's where you use discernment. Like, okay, this feels like truth. And you're going to go on your journey. You're going to experience what you experience. I guess there's no controlling anyone, how open you are, how detached you are. But I think I just needed to say that because, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this episode was a great season finale. You look like you want to choke.
I actually was choking. My throat is.
I mean, that's what I meant. Like you want to like cough up a choke.
No. I think it's good for everybody to see our perspectives, and it's good for me to even hear what you hear about my vocabulary and what it means. And I feel like you're getting triggered sometimes by some of the way that I use words. Like
I'm not
open means just like, hey, I'm open. Like, hey, what movie you want to watch? I don't know. I'm open. What do you want to?
See, but that's annoying because then I pick a movie and you're like, I didn't like it, and I'm like, if you were just like a little less open and you helped me with more information, then we could have picked.
And then I could have picked a movie that you didn't want to watch. I could have been like, hey,
I fall asleep every time, no matter what.
I'm just saying, but it doesn't matter. You still might like to see the first 15 minutes of a movie you'd want to see compared to a superhero movie.
That was a good example. Like I'm open, anything can come in, and then we're getting fed something that's like, oh, I really don't like that. I think your gut helps you use that discernment of what you need to be filled with.
So then the key is not the openness, it's the discernment.
Yes.
So you can be open, you can actually be so open as long as your discernment is there.
Yes, I think that's what I said, but you have to get to a place where you flex that discernment muscle.
No, it's just like any other muscle. You start off with a specific amount of...
You can use discernment and think one thing's true and then realize like, oh,
but that's also...
I thought I judged right, but I didn't. But you're able to go to another place because you're open, because you're detached. You're still not even attached to the thing you chose because you were using discernment.
Yeah.
That's how you know true discernment. You could say, oh, I was wrong.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah.
And so open that you can let go of that experience and move on to the next.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just the way of life.
So let's reflect on the season.
I think that's the season.
How do you feel about this season?
I quite liked how to get better every day. I think it taught me a lot about myself day to day. I'm like, am I getting better every day? It's a good question to ask yourself every night you go to sleep. Did I do something to make myself better?
Yeah.
Did I use discernment today? Did I challenge myself today? Did I serve somebody today? Did I share my gift today? Did I love today? Did I get better? What is better to you?
I think from this season, I've like taken away that like getting better is being like the most authentic version of myself. I think that I've learned that God has created us all perfect from the beginning of time. And it's all the conditioning that we need to move out the way in order to actually just be. And I feel like this season has given me the opportunity to share with more and more people me as I learn who I am.
We need a third person on this podcast is what I learned this season, so I could go back and
So,
forth.
so anyway, I'm thankful for this season. I've been able to learn a lot about you, your triggers, the things that trigger me. Also, just like a true understanding that we are all on this journey together, walking each other home. And the best thing that we can do is not necessarily offer advice.
Yeah.
It's to offer compassion, support, love, appreciation, gratitude, and share our own vulnerable experiences with each other.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with somebody else, maybe there's something they can take away from that.
Yeah.
It's about opening up our hearts to everyone, in the quest for all of us to evolve into the best version of ourselves.
Boom.
So thank you guys for rocking and rolling
you.
with us this season and the last couple seasons. We're eager and excited to start the next season. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but if you have
Bring it to
any
spring.
comments or any subject matters that you want us to talk about, please comment below. Feel free to like, dislike.
I know we said it would happen this season, but next season we're definitely having somebody on here. We already have somebody lined up.
We got a couple peeps lined up.
Coming
couple peeps.
on and just like, I mean, we did. I talked to Tori. Was that last season or this season? But so excited for what's to come. Love you. Thank you.
Love you. Peace.
Like, follow, subscribe.